If there's one racing team that has lots of work to do for choosing their 2023 drivers, it has to be HAAS. The American team will probably say goodbye to Mick Schumacher. And even though everyone thought that Magnussen's seat was safe and he would have a new teammate in 2023, this might not be true after all. While everybody's expecting HAAS to sign Hülkenberg and put him together with Magnussen, one ex-F1 driver who's very close to Mick thinks that we could see two German drivers racing for HAAS in 2023. Is this really possible? Mick Schumacher will probably lose his seat at HAAS, and even though people have different opinions about whether or not Mick should stay at HAAS, his uncle Ralf Schumacher has had a very interesting opinion when it comes to Mick staying in F1. Even though Mick had a hard time keeping his car under control in many races this season like in Jeddah and Monaco, Ralf thinks that his nephew belongs in F1 and nowhere else, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Let's first talk about why Mick's place at HAAS is in danger. As Steiner and Gene Haas, the owner of the team, said many times, Mick's lack of getting points is something that has hurt him very much this season. According to the team owner, Mick's constant crashing and lack of points is something that made him think of another driver to replace him. As Gene said before the Austin Grand Prix, adding, "We're just waiting. We need Mick to bring in some points and we're trying to give him as much time as possible to see what he can do. If he wants to race with us, he's got to show us that he can score some more points. That's what we're waiting for." Gene then kept talking about Mick's crashes and his up and down performance throughout the 2022 season. In this sport, being kind of a new driver, the sport just doesn't allow it. It's just too expensive. If you make any mistakes in picking drivers, strategy, or tire choices, it's costing you millions of dollars. I think Mick has got a lot of talent, but he costs a lot of money. He crashes a lot of cars that have cost us a lot of money that we just don't have. Now, if you bring us some points on your car like Verstappen and you wreck cars, we'll deal with it. But when you're in the back and you wreck cars, that's very hard. If you win, that's the next one. He's in somewhere and there's a gray area. According to his team boss Gunnar Steiner, Mick's place in Formula One isn't guaranteed. And even though he said that Mick has an advantage when it comes to being considered a favorite because he knows how to drive the HAAS car, that story has changed recently. When talking about Mick's chances of being the starting driver for HAAS in 2023, Steiner said, "If I'm honest, it's still 50-50. Nothing has been decided yet. We will obviously not make a decision between Austin and Mexico simply because there's not enough time. The next time would be the week after Mexico because we don't have a race then and have more time to deal with it. But this is just a build-up to what comes next, and that is Ralf Schumacher's statement. According to him, HAAS could fire Kevin Magnussen and make an all-German lineup for the 2023 season. This hasn't been confirmed by HAAS or hinted at in any statement as they said that. They are more than happy with Magnussen many times. Steiner said that he revealed that at least one driver is locked in for the 2023 season, so it's not likely that they will go into this process of firing drivers in order to bring in Hülkenberg. But if you think about it, Magnussen and Hülkenberg aren't really the best of friends, and we do know some things have happened between them in their racing careers. During the 2017 Hungarian Grand Prix, Magnussen had some spicy words for Hülkenberg after the German called the Danish driver the most unsportsmanlike driver ever, sarcastically saying, "Congratulations." Even though both of them have moved on from this fight and it's all in the past since it happened 5 years ago, HAAS may not want to risk chemistry problems if they're going to fight for points finishes. So what does Ralf have to say about this matter? Anything is possible, of course, especially if we look at the last few races. Who knows? Magnussen may not be so firmly in the seat anymore. If we look at the races in Silverstone, we've disdeath. Mick is the more stable and better of the two drivers and who has also had some bad luck with wrong strategies. In the last race, Mick was sometimes up to 0.6 faster than Magnussen. Let's wait and see for the next few races. I hope HAAS makes a decision soon. Maybe next year we'll have two German drivers on the Formula One grid. Even though Ralf is Mick's uncle and obviously he's going to have some bias towards him when it comes to boosting his chances to stay in Formula One, he does have a point when it comes to talking about his nephew. Mick has been consistently better than his teammate Magnussen, and it hasn't caused massive crashes like he did in Jeddah and Monaco. Even though each one of them cost $1 million, Mick has found his rhythm and he's very close to scoring points on 2 occasions. If it hadn't been for the accidents and wrong decisions, for example, Mick would have likely scored his first points of the season. During the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal, when car problems left him out of the race, he was successfully defending against the attacks of Joe in the Alfa Romeo, meaning that if everything went right in the pit stop, Mick would have been rewarded with his first career point there. He did finish 8th and 6th in Silverstone in Austria, and he would have scored 1 more point at the Austrian weekend, more precisely at the sprint race if the team had gotten the tactics right on Saturday. During the Singapore Grand Prix, we've seen that Russell crashed into Mick while trying to complete a pass. That wasn't Mick's fault at all, and the damage he suffered to his car wasn't allowing him to make a full push for points. It was a very challenging race, and the fact that Mick was able to finish it without crashing is a compliment in and of itself. All of this is just looking at the race results and judging expectations, but the reality is different. Magnussen had a year off from HAAS in 2021, and his comeback has truly been amazing for the American team. Even though the team has struggled to score points ever since the Austrian Grand Prix, with Magnussen breaking this negative streak in Austin, it's clear that they will push their own limits starting in 2023, according to Helmut Marko. The deal between HAAS and Hulkenberg is done, and we should expect an announcement before the Brazilian Grand Prix when talking about this matter. Helmut Marko said, "When a team publicly criticizes a driver so harshly as was sometimes the case, it shows there are no signs of trust. The situation at HAAS is that they have an experienced driver in Magnussen, and if there was a great up-and-coming talent, I would bet on him. But I don't see anyone at the moment who would have these requirements. And from a team perspective, there's a lot of money at stake in the Constructors' World Championship. Whether you are 10th or 8th, but a difference of millions of dollars, I assume HAAS will bet on a veteran." Hulkenberg has been known as a very reliable and consistent driver throughout his careers at Force India, later Racing Point and at Renault, and that's exactly what HAAS needs in the driver. Even though Steiner has been more positively oriented towards Ricciardo, it's clear that the 8-time race winner won't participate in Formula 1 in 2023, which is why HAAS needs to work with whatever they have on hand. Earlier this season, Steiner said that the seats at HAAS are purely up to him and the owner Gene Haas to decide for, so Ferrari won't interfere in this process. If it had been up to Ferrari, we would have likely seen a driver like Robert Schwartzman gearing up at HAAS, but the fact that HAAS won't even consider Giovinazzi as a replacement for Mick as the Italian is currently a reserve driver for the Ferrari. Team just goes to show that HAAS wants to sign a driver that will fit their needs, not Ferrari's. According to Helmut Marko, Hulkenberg is a proven driver, and the fact that he can deliver whenever he's asked of him should be enough for the German driver to secure his seat at HAAS. It would be a shame for Formula One, on the other hand. Hulkenberg has proven he can jump into a car as a reserver without any test kilometers, into the cold water, so to speak, and always deliver. That speaks volumes for him. As for Schumacher, if his team decides that enough is enough, he will have the first chance to conquer his seat back in F1 from 2024 on. Audi is entering the sport from 2026 onwards, so they will likely want to have a German driver on their team. With that being said, what do you think about Magnussen being fired earlier than expected? Let us know in the comments below.